to explain what is causing this weather and why it has taken them by surprise.
That sudden drop in temperature has half an hour ago. Mexican officials closed the border in the line of so many U.S. refugees.
We prepare to go live to Los Angeles.
What you see is happening now.
Look over there behind me! That's a tornado! Yes, a twister!
This is just massive.
Listen to that. That is what Typhoon Koni is doing in the Western Pacific right now. What you're looking at are fresh images out of Miyakojima, Japan.
Protests over garbage piling up, as you see right there in the streets, have turned very violent. Police are using water cannons and tear gas on the crowd. Demonstrators in the thousands calling the piles of refuse an example of government dysfunction.
The Dow dropped more than 1,000 points in the first 4 minutes of trading day today. It's on track to suffer its worst percentage decline since 2008, the beginning of the scariest financial crisis since the Great Depression.
Macedonian police struggle to hold back a human flood of refugees. At one point, a child struggles to break through. A man with a baby pleads. Human misery on display and raw. Earlier, the situation reached a breaking point. Hundreds of migrants tried to force their way into Macedonia from Greece unsuccessfully. Riot police responded with stun grenades and tear gas. A few were injured in the clashes.
Officer people, Macedonia, they shoot the people.
Tensions rose after Macedonia declared a state of emergency, shutting their border to the world's most vulnerable, many families making the perilous journey from war-torn countries. The scale of this human disaster is hard to comprehend. Tens of thousands of people enter Europe monthly from places like Syria and Somalia. They arrive any way possible. The UN says about 150,000 so far this year. The desperation obvious. Now, with the border closed, many are stranded in no man's land. Macedonia, a small country, says they can't cope with this influx, especially since they aren't members of the European Union and don't have access to those resources. Without any permanent solutions to the causes behind the flood of refugees, this pressure will continue to rise throughout Europe until we likely reach another breaking point. Ian Lee, CNN, London.
And developing this morning, people near Mammoth Lakes are still talking about an earthquake that we first reported in our 6 a.m. hour. A magnitude 4.0 quake there. People felt some light shaking. The quake hit 11 miles southeast of Mammoth Lakes just after 6:30 this morning. It is the second 4.0 magnitude quake to hit Northern California since Monday. That one was centered near Oakland.
Over garbage piling up, as you see right there in the streets, have turned very violent. Police are using water cannons and tear gas on the crowd. Demonstrators in the thousands calling the piles of refuse an example of government dysfunction. Our Nick Payton Walsh is live for us from Beirut. So, Nick, this is an incredibly volatile looking situation.
Remember where we are here. The pictures you're seeing are live images of basically pretty much outside the White House to some degree, the comparable thing for Lebanon, outside the Prime Minister's residence. There's been this clash unfolding now for 3 to 4 hours. It all began, it began a long time ago because how dysfunctional the government is here, but the seed of it was begun when the government failed to collect trash here for well over 2 to 3 weeks. It piled up in the streets, it stank, it rotted. It began a protest movement called #YouStink on Twitter. They don't really have a top leader figure, but they do generate a lot of people on the streets, and they brought out thousands of people today after a violent reaction from police to another protest last night in which live ammunition was fired in the air. I got a lot of people angry here. Now we're seeing on the streets down here a lot of tear gas being used, and the chant you may hear from the protesters is Tawra, Tawra, which in Arabic means revolution. They are basically demanding the fall of the Prime Minister, that he resign. Now, he's made it clear he's not doing that at this stage. He wants a cabinet meeting on Thursday, and the possibility that maybe they can get all the things, the reforms through they need to fast enough to appease these protests. But this has gone massively out of hand. Water cannons used, projectiles thrown at the police, a real sense of anarchy in the heart of Beirut here.
Listen to that. That is what Typhoon Kony is doing in the Western Pacific right now. What you're looking at are fresh images out of Miyakojima, Japan. Look at that, walls of water. It's like a wind tunnel there, and I'm sure some of those palm trees wound up becoming projectiles. We've had reports from the ground of sustained winds over 100 miles per hour, some 150 mile per hour gusts. Look at the symmetry within this. I mean, this thing is absolutely textbook and is going to continue to make some impacts as it smacks into Japan's southern islands. So big waves, strong winds. We've already had at least one death reported as a result of the storm. Again, look at those huge waves. And again, getting back to some of the winds that we're expecting within this storm, you can see why we still have huge concerns.
An explosion rocks a U.S. Army depot in Japan. The U.S. Defense Department says the incident happened shortly after midnight on Monday at a Sagami depot in Sagamihara, a city about 40 kilometers southwest of Tokyo. The blast set off a large blaze, but there were no reports of injuries. It's not immediately clear what's inside the building, but the U.S. Army said the depot did not store ammunition or hazardous material. Firefighters are on site to prevent any spread of the blaze, but would not take any further actions until the exact content of the building is determined. The cause of the explosion is under investigation.
But Typhoon Goni has killed at least 26 people in landslides and floods in the Philippines, as we mentioned. It destroyed nearly 1,000 houses and forced more than 12,000 people to flee, mostly in the northern part of the country, over the weekend. And the Civil Defense Office in Manila says rescue teams recovered the bodies of 13 miners buried by a landslide 2 days earlier in the town of Bangkayan in the country's north. And the recovery teams continue to claw away at a mountainside near the remote mining town. More than a dozen other people in the mountainous region were killed by landslides, surging waters and the falling trees. When Philippine Army helicopters airlifted food, water and relief supplies to thousands of families who fled their homes.
Yok ne ayarlamışım. Ananı isteyeyim abi gitsene yiyor. Ha arkadan Niva gitti mi? Gideyim. Gitsin. Denizli kol.
Video footage has emerged showing a huge blaze at a steel plant located near Tokyo's Haneda Airport. The video shows a plume of black smoke and flames shooting up into the air from the complex. A fire official has been quoted as saying that the fire broke out from a cooling tower. The cause of the blaze wasn't immediately known. There are no reports of injuries either. The site is owned by giant Japanese steelmaker Nippon Steel and Sumitomo Metal. The incident comes hours after multiple explosions.
There is good news and bad news. The bad news is, as you can see, the Dow is down 204 points right now. The good news is it's made a rebound from a shocking fall shortly after trading began this morning. And good afternoon, everyone. As soon as the bell sounded this morning, investors began to sell. The Dow dropped more than 1,000 points in the first 4 minutes of trading day today. It's on track to suffer its worst percentage decline since 2008, the beginning of the scariest financial crisis since the Great Depression. Why? Well, fears about China's economy is the easy answer. Earlier, Chinese stocks crashed and all Asian markets suffered major losses. The Shanghai Composite Index wiped out all gains made this year. European stocks fell today, too, down about 6%. The Dow plummeted by more than 1,000 points last week, its worst 5-day run since 2011.
Perspective here. 500-point decline in the stock market is a lot. A 4%, almost 4% move is a big move in one day, and there are big fears about what happens for the rest of the week. The big stocks that move, the most heavily traded stocks today, Bank of America, Apple, Netflix, some household names that you probably have in your portfolio. Apple in particular had an insane day. At one point it was positive, it was up several percent, and then was down again. So when you look in some of these names, you just see the irrational fear and then greed and then fear again in the stock market.
Fear, greed, loss of confidence in particular in China.
Well, we can call it another nightmarish day. That's what it's been used to describe Chinese stocks experiencing today amidst a global rout. The benchmark Shanghai Composite Index fell 7.63%, sinking below 3,000 points. And the drop followed the 8.49% loss on Monday in the index's biggest daily slump since February 2007. The Shenzhen Component Index also lost 7.04%. The Chinex Index, which tracks China's Nasdaq-style Board of Growth Enterprises, fell 7.52% and stood below 2,000 points. The People's Bank of China concluded 150 billion yuan, or $23.4 billion worth of 7-day reverse repurchase agreements. That's the process in which central banks purchase securities from banks with an agreement to resell them in the future. The PBOC also channeled another 110 billion yuan via its medium-term lending facility, which allows banks to borrow from the central bank by using securities as collateral.
Could be days before it's safe for people to go swimming in the waters off Waikiki and Ala Moana after a massive sewage spill caused by heavy rain. Officials say 500,000 gallons of raw sewage spilled out of manhole covers in the Ala Moana area. The sewage ended up in the ocean and contaminated the waters between the Kapahulu Groin in Waikiki to Point Panic in Kaka'ako. Not only are people being told to stay out of the water, officials say they should also stay out of Ala Moana Beach Park. The city says the sewage system was overwhelmed by all the rain.
Ala Moana Pump Station 1, all 4 pumps were running. 1 flickered off, and then we got it back online, but it still wasn't enough to handle the excess flow. We normally put on Ala Moana Pump Station 2, but we could not because of the construction.
The city and state says it's working to notify everyone about the massive sewage spill, but we saw many people swimming off Waikiki and Ala Moana. We wanted to know if officials are doing enough to warn people. Brent Ramadna is working to get answers. He joins us now from Ala Moana Boulevard. Brent?
Well, Joe, as you can see, we're here at the entrance to Ala Moana Beach Park, and you can see the road closed signs. There's no way that you can get in here, but it's much harder to shut down the beaches in Waikiki, and that's why we saw hundreds of people out in the water, even though there was a sewage spill.
I was really surprised.
We had no idea. I was not aware. I had no idea.
No idea that more than 500,000 gallons of wastewater had emptied into the ocean. The area between Point Panic at Kaka'ako Waterfront Park to Kapahulu Groin in Waikiki is closed because of a massive sewage spill. But hours after the spill, hundreds of people were still unaware and even swimming in the contaminated water.
As soon as we heard something, we stopped renting all of our beach equipment.
Star Beach Boys says after they closed, they started informing as many people as they could.
We're trying to advise as much as we can, even with language barriers. Me and the lifeguards, we're trying to use translators on our phones and try to tell people as much as we can. Just try to stay out of the water.
Waikiki lifeguards used megaphones to inform people as well and posted signs. But not every area received the signage.
I've been out here all day, and I have not seen any signs. No one said anything about it. I think that you have a right to know. I don't know. Not really sure how to react. There's no signs that say that there is sewage in the water.
Now, earlier today, I walked down this part of the beach here outside in front of the Hilton Hawaiian Village. There was no signs up until recently when the city came through and put up signs like this.
The signs in this area were put up hours after the spill first occurred. And as soon as the signs went up, people took notice.
There's got to be more word of mouth, definitely, and obviously more signs that say, be aware of this is what's in the water.
Now, the city tells me they had to remove a lot of the signs at night so they don't get stolen. Again, it could take days before it's safe to return to the water, and this area here will be closed until that. Reporting live, Brent Ramadna, KHON 2 News.
There were other sewage spills across Oahu. The city says the Kailua wastewater treatment plant spilled nearly 5,000 gallons of sewage into Nu'upia Pond this morning. A spill from the Kaneohe wastewater facility into Kava Stream has not stopped since 6 o'clock this morning. In Aina, city crews cleaned a spill along Kalaniana-Ole Highway. The Navy also says the rain caused 2 spills at Joint Base Pearl Harbor Hickam today.
Philadelphia police officer is facing possible criminal charges this morning over a traffic stop. Officer Matthew Zagurski is seen on video apparently pressuring two men he just pulled over to support a fundraiser. He's been placed on desk duty. Jim Axelrod is here with the video sparking outrage and an investigation. Jim, good morning.
Well, good morning. And no one was hurt in this encounter, but the footage has been watched more than 1 million times on Facebook. Among the viewers, Philadelphia's police commissioner, who said Officer Zagurski's conduct was inexcusable. These are not the type of tickets normally issued at traffic stops.
You and your friend got any money by these thorough show tickets? Support your police department? $10 each, man. Either you buy these or I take your car because it's unregistered.
In another clip, 32-year-old Matthew Zagurski, a 9-year veteran of the Philadelphia Police Department, makes fun of the driver's pink windshield wipers.
And what's up with the wipers?
Breast cancer, man. My grandma went through it.
Philadelphia Police Commissioner Charles Ramsey was livid.
There's no part about the video that I like. There's no part that's justifiable at all.
You got any sweetheart?
Yeah. I'd rather take my girl than this guy.
It looks like you want to look like two fruitcakes.
His language on one of the tapes, homophobic, which obviously is a violation of our policy and not what we expect from our officers.
The driver posted the videos to Facebook. He spoke to CBS Philadelphia station KYW, but did not want to appear on camera.
He's disrespectful. And a lot of cops I run into are disrespectful, and a lot of them are good.
The annual Hero Thrill Show, scheduled for October, funds college scholarships for children of police officers and firefighters killed in the line of duty. Started in 1954, it is a Philadelphia institution.
You got $30, $10 piece.
The police commissioner said officers are not required to sell tickets, and what Zagurski did looked like a shakedown.
If he wanted to try to sell somebody a ticket, but to do that in lieu of towing a man's car, I mean, that's what makes it problematic.
The organizer for the Hero Thrill Show told CBS this morning the event is, quote, a high and holy tradition, and the organizers in no way condone Zagurski's actions. Once Internal Affairs concludes its investigation, Commissioner Ramsey said he could discipline Zagurski further or refer the matter to the district attorney for possible criminal charges.
I mean, do people not understand there are cameras everywhere now? This is what I don't get.
Good cause with getting a little bit of a bad name.
Yeah. Too bad.
Well, it could be one of the best canine takedowns of all time. A San Diego police dog leaping through a car window to stop a high-speed chase suspect from running away. And the whole thing played out today on 10 News at 5 Live.
And a law enforcement expert came in tonight to tell 10 News' Bree Steffen someone may have died today without the help of that dog. Bree?
Well, that's right. And tonight, instead of being in jail, that suspect is here at the hospital being treated for a nasty dog bite. This was the moment a San Diego police dog took a bite out of a suspected car thief.
You could see lethal force deployed all around him. Absent that dog, all that's left is a potential lethal standoff.
It all started after this woman called police saying her cousin stole her keys and then her car. Sky 10 caught the chase on the 15. When the suspect lost control on the ramp to the 94 West, the handler boosted his dog through the car window. Seconds later, that suspect was in handcuffs. We talked to retired Sheriff's Commander Glenn Revelle about the takedown.
It almost seems like he's throwing the dog into the car.
Well, I think what he probably hoped when he put him up there is the dog would go right through the window because they're trained to do that in their own car.
Revelle says using that canine likely saved lives.
That is their partner. They are truly attached, but he's not a pet. He's a tool.
Without the dog as their first line of defense, Revelle says the only other option the officers had to protect themselves with is their guns.
With the dog, you see the outcome is we're probably headed to the hospital. We're going to have some wounds cleaned. He's going to heal. We'll see you in court.
And Revelle says he commends the way San Diego PD handled this situation. Police say the suspect was acting weird and it's possible he had a drug, alcohol, or mental issue. As soon as he gets done being treated here at the hospital, he's going straight to jail. Reporting in College area, Bree Steffen, 10 News.
All right, it was the textbook takedown. Thank you, Bree.
Welcome back. Joining me in studio now is David Knight. We're going to be talking about the 8th damning video that's been released by the Center for Medical Progress. In this video, we have the CEO of the baby parts buying company STEM Express admitting that Planned Parenthood sells intact fetuses and also describing the organization as a volume institution. They just can't get enough of these baby parts.
There's a lot of focus, Leanne, on the profitability of this, and this is very important. This is the video that they went to court to try to stop. They got the restraining order. The restraining order was lifted. On Friday, we had little bits and pieces of this released. They released the full video today. We have the article on Infowars.com. So first of all, the profit aspect. Because if the clinics are making money off of this, that is prohibited by law. Clear and simple. So what they're trying to do is say, we're recovering our costs. And as we pointed out before, they said when Novogenics comes in, she goes through all the samples, she takes what she needs, she does the transportation. There's no cost at all to us whatsoever. They start out this video with this flyer that you can see right here. They say your clinic can advance biomedical research. Then the very first subtitle is, it's financially profitable, easy to implement, plug-in solution. Again, they show some more. Advancing biomedical research together, emphasizing fiscally rewards the clinics. Then they say easy to implement and financial profits. They say it provides a financial benefit to your clinic. You'll also be contributing to the fiscal growth of your own clinic. They emphasize the money over and over again. And as a matter of fact, in this, we're going to play some excerpts from it, but in this one particular section, the buyer is engaging the STEM Express CEO. This is the CEO of STEM Express. Engaging her in conversation, said, you know, I just want to make sure that it's beneficial financially to you. And she says, oh, and to you also. She says, yes, and to the clinics. And we're just concerned that there's been a failure, that some of the clinics aren't getting any money. And she was surprised. And she goes, you feel like there's clinics out there that are getting burned? I don't understand how that's happening. That they think they're doing work for research and hasn't been profitable for them. And she goes, well, no, I thought you were saying, no, I haven't seen that. You haven't seen that, have you? So they understand this is about making money, but it's about other things as well. We're pushed back against this. We're told we have to have Planned Parenthood because it's an issue of women's health. So I want you to hear what they say about the condition of some of the parts that they get. They're concerned about how they arrive, what the contamination of these parts. Listen to this clip.
Rampant problems with bacteria in certain clinics. Some where you're kind of like in question of really should they, you know, I've seen staff come out of clinics. So, I mean, I've seen all sorts of things come out of clinics. So we're working with.
Yeah, so what she's saying is we've seen staph infections, all sorts of things coming out of these clinics.
And we saw the atrocious thing there with the Gosnell case and just what his clinic looked like.
Yes. And this was a key issue in the pushback against the legislation here in Texas.
Right.
In Texas, they wanted to make sure that these clinics met basic medical standards, that they had emergency care there. They said, no, you're just trying to put us out of business because evidently they're aware of the fact that their clinics are rampant with staph and other infections. Let's look at the volume that they're talking about. Let's play this clip where she talks about how many livers they need, because that's a key component that they're looking for from these children.
We're working with, you know, almost like triple-digit number of clinics. So it's a lot on volume. And we still need more from what we do. So it's a lot.
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't think you're going to hit a capacity with us anytime
in the next 10 years.
In the next 10 years, okay? And there's a clip there where she says,
with all of those baby parts?
Exactly. And the famous clip that we saw last week where she says, what would make your lab happy? And she says, well, we'd like to see 50 livers a week. And really, we need to take that R out of there. 50 more livers a week. Yeah, 50 more.
In addition to what they're getting.
And she says, exactly, 50 more. We're talking about 50 lives here. That's what we're really talking about. Let's look at the gruesome admissions, because this is part of what was released last week as well. One of the things she's talking about is the fact that neural tissue, in other words, brains, she says, are so fragile, so insanely fragile, they're the hardest thing in the world to ship. And so the buyer says, so you do it as a whole calvarium, in other words, the entire head. And she says, yeah, that's it. That's the easiest way. Then we have this clip.
You do it as the whole calvarium.
That's it. Yeah, that's the easiest way. And I mean, we've actually had good success with that in the past. So
make sure the eyes are closed.
Tell the lab it's coming. So don't open the box. Oh God. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Make sure
they're
that
just
they
like
don't
these
open up.
evil serial killers. They're always eating and laughing and.
Well, the interesting thing about this is now she goes into why they have to be careful about this. In certain clinics, she says the academic labs can't handle that. They can't fly like that. They can't open this up and see the head there. So then they talk about, well, you know, what are the kind of objections that they have? And listen to what she has to say about this.
It's almost like they don't want to know where it comes from. Megan's seen that, where they're like, we need limbs, but no hands and feet need to be attached. And you're like, oh, they just want the long bones and they don't
What's the problem with that?
They want you to take it all off, like make it so that we don't know what it is.
Yeah.
It's like,
bone the chicken for me, and then
that's it.
you know,
Sort of
and
like,
then I'll eat it.
But we know what it is.
Wow.
We know what it is.
I mean, and
she laughs.
it's truly like people that want to go and get their meat from the deli rather than having to dissect the animal themselves.
Yeah.
Wow.
She knows what it is. She doesn't have a problem with it. She knows these other people have a problem with it. And then they get into the issue of why a lot of these academic labs want to get away from fetal stem cells altogether. She goes and she says, well, their lab techs freak out. They have meltdowns. So it's like, yeah, a lot of researchers, she said, ultimately they want to look at bone marrow. They want to look at adipose, at adult human stem cells. You want to get away from having to publish your research and show a picture and having to say that this was derived from fetal tissue. This has been a part of the debate from the very beginning, saying that we can get this same medical research from adult stem cells. We don't need to abort babies. But that goes back to the first part. That goes back to the money that they're making off of this. That's why they're doing this. It's the money that is driving this. They could get the stem cells that they need for most of this research. And as she's pointing out, because of the ethical objections to this, because of the gruesomeness of this, a lot of people are saying we're just not going to do that anymore. So you've got these people like STEM Express that are making lots of money, that are pushing this, and of course Planned Parenthood is making the money as well. And so she goes from that and she goes, because these people have these ethical issues, we need to have people who are champions for the cause of abortion. That's going to overcome their objections, their conscious objections. So let's play this clip where she talks about how important it is to have champions in the clinics.
I just think you're either in the cause or you're not.
Yeah.
And if you're not in the cause, like, they don't need you around. Get out. They need champions. And if you're not a champion, you should go.
Yeah.
Because that's just, you know, and I don't know, the clinics, you know, they're very guarded, as they should be.
Yeah.
And who do they let in their house? They want champions in their house, right?